there have been cases where the impasse of the Security Council has been circumvented by a decision of the General Assembly to act, for example, uniting for peace. And this might be one opportunity to consider in this case as well. But
have called for stepped-up measures, including some form of impartial force to protect civilians. These calls are a reflection of the gravity and urgency of the situation facing civilians in the country. At present, the conditions do not exist for the successful deployment of United Nations force to protect civilians in Sudan. The Secretariat stands ready to engage with the Council and others on the range of operational mobilities that can meaningfully contribute to the reduction in violence and the protection of civilians.
The selection and appointment of the Secretary General and other executive heads, and the strengthening of the accountability, transparency and institutional memory of the Office of the President of the General Assembly.
The most recent chapter of the Council's failure just unfolded with its inability to adopt a draft resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire on November 20th, 2024, submitted by the E10. We meet again in a resumed emergency special session of the General Assembly, while the catastrophic situation in the occupied Palestinian territory and Gaza continue to exacerbate.
Have been calling for every day for 14 months. It is what this General Assembly wisely called for more than a year ago. We call on all states to support a ceasefire. Yesterday, the General Assembly, by an overwhelming majority, voted for an end of Israel's unlawful presence in the occupied Palestinian territory and for a high-level international conference to implement the UN resolutions pertaining to the peaceful settlement of the question of Palestine and the two-state solution. Stop the bleeding and restore life in Gaza so it can be once again the beating heart of Palestine. Stop the bleeding so we can restore credibility to our international system, so we can ensure it for future generations, so our people can live, so our region can thrive, so that international peace and security can be
work cut out for him as president of the biggest global assembly in the world, the UN General Assembly. It is my pleasure to welcome to the stage His Excellency Philemon Yang, who is former Prime Minister of Cameroon and the current president of the UN General Assembly.
We must intensify efforts to strengthen mechanisms that prevent violations of international humanitarian law and hold perpetrators, wherever they might be, accountable.
It's time to build on these examples and continue adapting our peace operations for current and future challenges. Work is now underway to review all forms of peace operations as requested by Member States in the Pact for the Future. The review will aim to critically examine these tools and propose concrete recommendations to make them fit for today. These will include extensive consultations with Member States and others to inform and inspire recommendations. The review will build on the analysis presented in the new Agenda for Peace. It will be informed by the first comprehensive study of the history of special political missions in the 80 years of the United Nations, which will be released soon. And it will reflect the Pact's call to ensure that peace operations are engaged at the earliest possible stage in planning transitions with host countries, UN country teams, and local and regional groups. The review also aligns with the Pact's call to this Council to ensure that peace operations are guided by clear and sequenced mandates that are realistic and achievable within viable exit strategies and transition plans. And it will draw on the discussions taking place in preparation for the Peacekeeping Ministerial in Berlin in May, focusing on the future of peacekeeping. Excellences,
Excellencies, throughout, we will hold extensive consultations to capture as wide a spectrum of views as possible and to benefit from worldwide expertise, from member states, host states, troop and police contributing countries, and financial contributors, to regional organizations, civil society, and academia, and our own leaders and experts within UN peace operations and the Secretariat. And the review will, of course, help inform our efforts through our UN at 80 initiative.
He spoke to, I think, on March 12th when he presented the UN 80, was very clear in his aim to push forward ambitious reforms to this organization, to not only to save money, but to make it more efficient and more adapted to the world we live in. There are three streams in that. One is looking at what he, as the chief administrative officer of this organization, can do in terms of how we use the resources that are given to us in a way that is more efficient. So he's working on that. There are other streams which include looking at our mandates that are given to us by member states, and where there's duplication, where mandates are no longer useful or effective, and what we can do with member states on that. The third one was also looking at more structural changes to the UN system. The last two, especially, will need member state approval, right? I mean, it's not Antonio Guterres' organization. He's the chief administrative officer. It's the member states' organization that fund this organization.
Housekeeping question to start. On the Secretary General's remarks on Monday to the plenary on UN 80, are you expecting some level of granularity and an update on what we already know, or is it more of a broad brush strokes on UN 80?
Well, we'll have to see when we get that. But certainly he wants to update them not just on his vision, but also on the work that's been done so far. So there will be some details about the kind of specific work that's been taken up until this point. Did you have anything further?
Yeah.
Such moments inevitably lead to anxiety and concern, and this is understandable. Yet, there are also opportunities for renewal. They are also an opportunity to rebuild. The challenges that come along with all these opportunities must always be accepted. The nations, we have the chance to reflect on the past 80 years of remarkable work. Bravo. But we also have the chance now to reaffirm the values and principles that gave rise to the United Nations as enshrined in the Charter, and to look to the next 80 years and beyond. In many ways, the Pact for the Future, which this General Assembly adopted in September, has positioned us in the right direction. The Pact emphasizes that the United Nations system must be fit for the future, effective and capable. Our collective future is in our hands. The Secretary General's UN 80 initiative, announced on the 11th of March in his letter to member states, is an opportunity to undertake strategic reforms and improvements in line with the United Nations Charter and the Pact for the Future. It is a chance to build the future of the United Nations and of multilateralism together. As such, it is based on ongoing consultation with member states and the United Nations system. Change is never easy, but it can be successful and very rewarding. We must embrace all the changes the UN needs in order to embrace and handle the challenges we all face. Let us be smart, efficient, collaborative, and emphatic. Above all, let us be ever mindful of our charter responsibility to work for the peoples of the world. The peoples of the world expect us to make the United Nations successful. And all peoples expect us to grow and evolve alongside the world we live in. All circumstances that concern humanity are dynamic. They keep changing all the time. My dear colleagues, it is in all our interests to ensure that the United Nations remains effective, cost-efficient, and responsive to the planet it serves. Let us make that a reality. Thank you.
It is only naturally, especially in a period of turbulence and tumult, to look ahead and ask central questions. How can we be the most effective organization that we can be? How can we be more nimble, coordinated, and fit to face the challenges of today, the next decade, and indeed the next 80 years? The UN 80 initiative is anchored in answering these questions and equipping our organization in an era of extraordinary uncertainty. Yes, these are times of peril, but they are also times of profound opportunity and obligation. The mission of the United Nations is more urgent than ever. And it is up to us to intensify our efforts to deliver the Sustainable Development Goals and be laser-focused on implementing the Pact for the Future with its many pathways to strengthen multilateralism.
What is today called into question is the very meaning of multilateralism, its values, its principles, and its sustainability, its very fabric. But I also sense from many of you a robust determination and political will to ensure a United Nations that is stronger than ever before and ready to meet the challenges of the 21st century. We must rise to meet this moment.
As indicated in my letter of 11 March, the UN 80 initiative is structured around three key work streams. First, we are striving to rapidly identify efficiencies and improvements in the current arrangements. Second, we are reviewing the implementation of all mandates given to us by member states. And third, we are undertaking consideration of the need for structural changes and program realignment across the UN system. Under the first work stream on the efficiencies and improvements, Under Secretary General Catherine Pollard is leading a working group for the Secretariat that is developing a management strategy to design a new business model for the organization. The working group is focused on developing cost reduction and efficiency enhancement proposals in measurement and operations across the UN Secretariat. It is reviewing administrative functions to identify redundancies, streamline processes, and design integrated solutions with cost-benefit analysis and clear implementation roadmaps. This brings me to the second work stream, mandate implementation review. As stated in my 11 March letter, this work stream is about how the UN system implements mandates entrusted by member states. We will not review the mandates themselves. Those are yours to decide on. Our job is to examine and report on how we carry them out and our goal is to simplify and optimize how we do so. The measure of success is not the volume of reports we generate or the number of meetings we convene. The measure of success, the value, purpose, and aim of our work is in the real world difference we make in the lives of people. Proposals on structural change and program realignment are likely to emerge from the mandate implementation review. But we have already got the ball rolling by soliciting the view of a number of UN senior leaders. Their initial submissions, nearly 50 in all, show a high level of ambition and creativity. Last week, we deepened some of our ideas and thinking about structural changes in a dedicated session of the UN System Chief Executive Board for coordination. I felt a strong sense of collective determination and responsibility from the leaders of UN entities, a shared resolve to strengthen the system and assume the challenge of change and renewal, and a united commitment to bring to you, our member states, concrete and ambitious proposals for a renewed United Nations.
As you will have seen, and is still going on, the General Assembly is meeting on a special informal briefing to hear from the Secretary General, and they did hear from him this morning on his UN 80 initiative. The Secretary General said, as we celebrate our 80th anniversary, the UN 80 initiative is anchored in equipping our organization in an year of extraordinary uncertainty. This moment, Mr. Guterres said that the UN 80 initiative is structured around 3 key work streams: to rapidly identify efficiencies and improvements under current arrangements, to review the implementation of all mandates given to us by member states, and to consider the need for structural changes and program realignment within the UN system. A couple of announcements to share with you on travel. The Secretary General this afternoon will be traveling to Germany to attend the UN Peacekeeping Ministerial Summit that will kick off tomorrow. Tuesday in Berlin, he will also in Berlin be joined by the Undersecretary General for Peace Operations, Jean-Pierre Lacroix, the Undersecretary General for Department of Field Support, Operational Support, Atul Khare, and the Undersecretary General for Management, Catherine Pollard. During the high-level opening ceremony tomorrow, the Secretary General is scheduled to deliver remarks that will focus on the future of peacekeeping. He will underscore the importance of the work of our Blue Helmets and the sacrifice they make. He will also touch upon contributions to peacekeeping during these tough times for the financing of our work across the board, as you heard in his remarks here in New York. And just to note that this meeting provides a platform for delegations to announce substantial pledges, we hope, in support of closing capability gaps and adapting peace operations to better respond to existing challenges and new realities that we face. While there
UN 80 and the Secretary General's remarks this morning, because I was struck with, you know, he really seems like he's moving fast, and he's really going to change this, he's wanting to change this organization from top to bottom. Is it an overstatement to say that the UN, when this process is complete, will be a completely changed organization as a whole?
I think one thing that will not be changed and one thing that will be exactly the same are the principles under which we operate and the goals of what we do, right? What we hope will change is the way we do it, the efficiencies, to be able to better serve the people that we're here to serve. But I would also, you know, I think you when you talk about the Secretary General, his view and his, not the word view is not the right one, but when in his strong, deeply held desire to reform this organization.
The UN system is highly diverse, consisting of organizations with a wide variety of structures and mandates. To advance our 3 work streams, I have established 7 UN 80 clusters under the coordination of the UN 80 Task Force and in close cooperation with the Secretariat Working Group. Each of the 7 clusters bring together the organizations that contribute to a similar specific global objective and similar areas of work. They will advance efforts in the 3 UN80 work streams, identifying efficiencies and improvements, mandate implementation review, and possible structural changes. Peace and security, coordinated by DPPA, DPO, OCT, and ODA. Development for the UN system, coordinated by UNDP, UNOPS, UNICEF, and DCO. They will be the locomotive force for concrete proposals, and they will operate at the high level of ambition that our times demand, and that also echo, in large measure, the calls contained in the Pact for the Future. Excellencies, in all these work streams, my objective is to move as quickly as possible, and many changes will require the approval by the General Assembly this year and next. I will consult closely and regularly with Member States on progress, seeking guidance on the way forward, and presenting concrete proposals for discussion and decision-making when appropriate. The UN80 initiative is a significant opportunity to strengthen the UN system and deliver for those who depend on us. It is central for implementing the Pact for the Future. It is crucial for advancing the Sustainable Development Goals. The needs of the people we serve must remain our guiding star. We must always stick to principles, and we must never compromise core values, and we must forever uphold the purposes and principles of the UN Charter. Many decisions ultimately are in your hands as Member States. Many of you have agreed that this must be the moment to be bold and ambitious. That is what our organization needs, and that is what our times demand. We cannot afford to act in any other way than with the highest level of ambition and common purpose. Let us seize this momentum with urgency and determination and work together to build the strongest and most effective United Nations for today and tomorrow, and I thank you.
To simplify processes and to improve integration and coordination of both mandates, processes, and agencies. We look forward to the Secretary-General's concrete proposals to this end, including building on previous reform processes.
The group also encouraged strategic approach to the structural reform-based evaluation outcome of a previous reform so as to identify the measure required to enhance overall effectiveness throughout this process.
The 80th anniversary of the UN represents a significant milestone for the international community. It is an opportunity for serious reflection on the future of the UN and the very idea of multilateral cooperation based on the principle of the sovereign equality of all its members. The challenges facing the UN are real and serious. We are witnessing a period of geopolitical tension, economic fragmentation, and rising nationalism. As small states, we believe that now is the moment to double down on multilateral cooperation to strengthen the UN system. We are deeply concerned by the erosion of respect for international law and by efforts to reverse economic integration and globalization. For small states, a strong and effective multilateral system underpinned by respect for the UN Charter and international law is not an option, but an existential necessity. The UN80 process must therefore reinforce the UN's role in the maintenance of peace and security. We must strengthen the capacity of the UN in the areas of conflict prevention, mediation, and peace building. Second, we welcome the Secretary-General's efforts to enhance efficiency and accountability within the organization and improve the delivery of mandates through the UN80 initiative. There's much we can do to improve internal efficiencies, reduce overlapping mandates, and restructure the UN system. At the same time, UN80 has to be more than an accounting or budgetary exercise. It is fundamentally an exercise to reset and reposition the United Nations to deliver results for all our people.
Mr. President, Mexico congratulates the Secretary General and welcomes the UN 80 initiative. We agree that it is necessary to drive forward an extensive reform of the United Nations, one that will transform the organization for the 21st century as is being called for by the nations of the world. The reform must also place it at the heart of a modern and effective multilateralism, one able to provide unflinching responses to the major multifaceted challenges facing humankind. Only smart and audacious action will make it possible for the organization to flourish in the years to come and to preserve its relevance as the main international organization able to shoulder effectively the common commitment to international peace and security, as well as to tackle current and future global challenges in the fields of disarmament, sustainable and shared development, the fight against climate change, and the defense of human rights. The dilemma is a clear one. Moving towards a UN able to tackle unprecedented challenges threatening us today, such as climate change and social inequality, or plunge into a spiral of backwards momentum, a world where crucial decisions continue to be taken only by the most powerful on earth. Our reform must represent all of the membership. It is vital that this reform be inclusive and transparent. It must be a commitment between member states and the Secretariat, one which keeps channels for dialogue and ongoing communication open so that together we can decide upon the future of the United Nations that we wish to see. Thank you.
80 Task Force. Thirdly, the fundamental focus of the UN 80 initiative must be better and quicker implementation of all agreements and mandates. As we review and reduce overlap in mandates, we must aim to strengthen the machinery and processes of the UN system to accelerate the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals and the Pact for the Future.
Be adequately addressed. Heightening geopolitical tensions, rising conflicts and crises, and climate catastrophe make the multilateralism with the UN at its center even more necessary than ever for global peace and security, sustainable development, and human rights. We must take this opportunity to not only to commemorate the 8 decades of its existence, but also as an opportunity to chart a new path for the coming decades.
At the heart of this process, we believe the reforms must be guided not solely by cost reduction goals, but by a vision of a more effective, inclusive, and accountable United Nations.
We thank the Secretary General for the launch and briefing on the UN 80 initiative at this pivotal moment in the history of the organization. The 80th anniversary of the United Nations is not only an occasion for reflection, but a call to action. As a region of small states deeply committed to multilateralism, CARICOM strongly supports the UN and believes that now more than ever, the organization must be revitalized to effectively meet the demands of a changing world, enhancing the UN's ability to deliver results. But as we move forward, the UN 80 initiative must ultimately aim to create a more agile, responsive, and future-ready United Nations. That goal is entirely consistent with the vision articulated in the Pact for the Future.
As the world faces an unprecedented escalation in geopolitical tension, crises, and armed conflicts, it is imperative that the organization's capabilities be enhanced to ensure it can effectively keep pace with and respond to emerging challenges and fulfill its vital role as the main multilateral organization in the world.
We look forward to your proposals to the General Assembly in July 2025 and to work constructively toward a more effective, efficient, mandate-oriented and sustainable United Nations that is aligned with not only today's world, but also with the future. Thank you, Mr. President.
That we see this reform as a way to be much more effective in relation to the prevention of conflicts, in relation to the mediation of conflicts, in relation to peacekeeping and to peace building, and simultaneously in relation to our capacity to support member states address the enormous challenges of development that at the present moment they face.
Thank you, Farhan. While there's a lot of discussion about this Gaza so-called humanitarian foundation, in Gaza today, as you indicated in your remarks, over 100 Palestinians have been killed by Israel as Israel continues to bomb hospitals, kill children, and direct violation of all indications of international law. How does this impunity continue to happen? What is the Secretary General's outlook on this, that no matter what is said from this podium, no matter what is said in the Security Council chambers, they continue this blatant disregard for all forms of international law?
Well, you've heard what we've had to say, but beyond words, ultimately, there need to be actions. We have been pushing all countries, including all of the member states closely involved with the situation in the Middle East, to push for what we have been saying, which includes respect for international law and basic international norms. We will continue to press our case, but ultimately, there needs to be a way in which all countries are united in the effort to make sure that there can be no violations of law on the scale that we've seen over these months.